Welcome to the Connaught Ealing Solutions video podcast, episode 3, What is Agile?
Hi, in today's episode, we're going to talk about Agile. So Agile is probably a term that you hear, comes up in lots of meetings, comes up in lots of different contexts these days. So I'm going to give you a little background and history on Agile and just kind of give you an understanding of what it means, so that next time you have a discussion about it, you'll understand what people are talking about. So Agile really came about because there was a lot of project managers, software developers that weren't really happy with the traditional method of project management, which is called Waterfalls. Now, Waterfalls involves first collecting requirements from your customer, your client, doing a design, creating the solution, doing QA and testing, and after that, delivering the product to the client. So a lot of project managers felt it was rigid, and particularly with larger projects, could be very difficult to get a good result for everyone involved. And when I'm talking about large projects, where a lot of this dissatisfaction came from was in the 90s. There was a lot of very large ERP implementations that went awry. And a lot of that was blamed on the project management approach. So what would happen is that a Fortune 500 company would say, yes, we want to, we like the idea of an ERP, of having all of our systems in one solution, and all of our processes being able to be tracked effectively. So they bought into the idea, but then the implementation fell down. And what would happen is that the ERP vendor would come in and say, okay, give us the requirements, and we're going to fit these requirements and align them with our solution as it is. And then we're going to go and create do a bunch of things that may take years. So it was kind of a black box approach. Years later, they'd say, ta-da, here's the solution, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years later, and the client would say, well, this doesn't match our business anymore. So there was too much of a time lag between collecting the requirements and the delivery of the solution. So a bunch of project managers and software developers got together in the early 2000s, 2001, and they came out with what they called the Agile Manifesto. And the Agile Manifesto was a complete new approach to project management that got away completely from the rigid Waterfalls traditional methodology that they felt was no longer effective and no longer impactful for software projects. And the Agile Manifesto had about 23, 24 different points in it. But the key points, first is, you can actually boil it down to 4 points. The first is self-organization. And what that means is that you give a lot more autonomy to the project teams. It's not a top-down approach where the senior management is dictating what everybody's doing. What happens is that a major task is given to a project team, and then they decide how to organize themselves. They decide how they can best deliver it. They're just given the resources they need to do it, and then they're off to the races. So self-organization is a very important aspect of Agile. Another is prototyping. And the idea of prototyping is let's get in there, let's create something as fast as we can, and then let's show it to the client. So this is getting away from the Waterfalls approach, where you're doing the requirements at the start, and then the customer's not involved anymore. The customer is involved throughout, and so you sit down with the client, and the customer says, I like this, I like that, what about this, what about that, and then you go back and you feed that new information into the next prototype. And so you just keep iterating your way through the whole process as time goes on. Third thing is collaboration, and it kind of feeds into prototyping also. It means everybody's collaborating together. The user interface people, the developers, the back-end, the database people. Everybody is working together as a team. You try to avoid silos as much as possible. And as I said, you try to maintain a rapid pace of prototyping. So, every month or so, let's say, you've got a new version that you can show to everyone and everyone can feed into. So, and as I said, the client is very much involved in this process. So, what often happens is that when you collect the initial requirements from the client, that just starts them thinking about the solution and how it could best suit their needs. And then as time goes on, they think of other things. They always think of other things. And the waterfall approach, that's handled by what they call change requests. So then it's usually more money. So, but with a agile approach, that additional information is just fed right into the system and fed right into the next round of prototypes. Finally, the last kind of key concept of an agile project management approach is a continuous process. So it's really, it feeds into the whole idea that software is never done. So once you start doing your project, it really goes on indefinitely. I mean, obviously at some point you go live, you ship the product, or the solution, the client starts using it, the client implements it. But when you're into that mode where you're kind of in what they call support mode, there's a lot more going on than you typically would see in waterfalls, in that you're still working on the project, you're still, maybe the timelines are longer, but you're still taking time to refine the product, make the solution better, and keep it adapted to what the business needs and where the business is going. Because as we know, business is always changing, technology is always changing, so software needs to constantly change. Now, Agile has been very successful. It's certainly had its challenges from time to time, but it works very well in a lot of different situations, and it's been rolled out in lots of other things rather than just software development. It's used for project management in a lot of different industries now. It's used for product management also. When people are creating a new solution, they'll actually use Agile to do it. There's a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and what he's talking about is really an agile approach to building a new business also. So it's really one of the most influential concepts that have come into technology and business in the last 20 years, and it continues to evolve, and it's very interesting methodology and concept that you might find applications that you never thought of in your business and your technology and your ongoing need to make your company better, make your products better, make your software solutions better. So that's the